Today's rabbit hole is how I escaped Windows, my Linux origin story. So you want to finally try Linux? Should you? Yes, but not because it's easy, not because it's perfect, because once it clicks, and it will click, you'll realize you've been renting a computer your whole life. And Linux is yours. This is how I got here. It took 11 years, a dead-end dual boot, a Python rabbit hole, and one very angry video editing session. Circa 2012, I'm surfing the internet, reading a Lifehacker article while I'm procrastinating. And it turns out it was a story about dual booting Linux. And I had some idea of what Linux was, but I thought it would be cool to try that. So I followed the instructions and somehow managed to get it to dual boot. I remember logging in and looking around and thinking to myself, nope. So I logged out and went back to Windows. Didn't think about Linux again for over a decade. Fast forward to 2023, I started using ChatGPT and I started toying around with Python scripts and the terminal. The idea that you could write your own script and make your computer do exactly what you wanted was game changing. No bloated GUI, no clicking through menus, just you and some code and a blinking cursor. So I started building some custom scripts, little automations, tools to solve specific problems I had. And the whole time, without realizing it, the terminal was seducing me. I was learning to live in the command line. I just didn't know Linux was waiting on the other side of that door. In 2024, I became tired of all the bloat and the spyware of Windows. But what finally broke me was when I was editing my YouTube video. It wasn't anything crazy. It was just cutting footage, arranging clips, just standard stuff. And my computer starts screaming. The fans are going full jet engine. The timeline's stuttering, and I was dropping frames on the preview. It was eating RAM, doing God knows what in the background. So I thought that what I could do was go back to Linux. I decided to dual boot Windows 11 on one partition and Pop! OS on the other. I told myself it was an experiment. It was not an experiment. I booted into Pop! OS for the first time, and within about 15 minutes I knew. I knew I was going to love it, and let me tell you why. First, the speed. It was an immediate and undeniable fact that it was faster. The same machine that had been choking on Windows felt like it had been given a shot of espresso. Apps opened instantly. The system felt responsive. It felt alive. Second, the tiling manager. Pop! OS has this optional auto tiling system where your windows just arrange themselves. No overlapping chaos, everything in its place. And as someone who lives in the terminals and code editors, this was transformative. My productivity spiked within days. But the third thing is the one that really got me, and it's harder to explain. Linux is open source. That means the code is public. Anyone can look at it, audit it, modify it, contribute to it. There's no corporation sitting in a server room deciding what telemetry to collect off your machine, what features to lock behind a subscription, what UI to impose on you because it helps their ad business. Linux is basically punk rock. It exists because a bunch of developers decided that software should be free. Free as in freedom, and they built something extraordinary out of that conviction. When I'm running Linux, I'm not a user in the product ecosystem. I'm running on an operating system that belongs to me, that I control, that nobody can take away or change without my consent. I was happy with Pop! OS, I really was, but I had an old laptop sitting around doing nothing. And I thought, what if I put Linux on that too? So I installed Kubuntu. And then I spent a weekend customizing it. And then another weekend. I was rising the desktop, tweaking the configs, installing themes. This is a known phenomenon in the Linux world. You stop using the computer to do things and start using the computer to customize the computer. It's a trap, and a wonderful trap at that. And then I discovered Ventoy. Ventoy, if you don't know, is an ability to let you put multiple ISO files on a single USB drive. Just one drive instead of having to have dozens of different flash drives for your distros. You boot it up and pick what you want to try and you're off. No more flashing and reflashing drives. Changed everything about how I explore Linux. So with Ventoy in hand, I went distro hopping. Ubuntu Studio, which ended up becoming my daily driver, is designed for creative professionals. Audio, video, graphics. The low latency kernel alone made a difference for my audio work. Reaper, Audacity, everything I needed was either pre-installed or trivially installable. I tried Garuda Linux. This is the one for people who want their desktop to look like it was designed by a cyberpunk concept artist. It's beautiful, Arch-based, performance-tuned, but a little bit bloat heavy. Endeavor OS, Arch, but actually approachable. Community-driven, minimal, principled. If you want to learn how Linux actually works without completely destroying your sanity, Endeavor OS is your on-ramp to Arch. Casio OS, Arch with aggressive performance optimizations baked in. Optimized kernels, scheduler patches. This one is for people who want to squeeze every single cycle out of their hardware. And then I started thinking about building my own distro based on Arch. Custom everything. Because apparently once you go down this road, the logical conclusion is I should just make my own operating system. I didn't finish it yet. As I mentioned, today my daily driver is Ubuntu Studio. It hits the right balance for what I do. Content creation, audio production, development, writing. The low latency kernel, the pre-configured jack audio setup, the KDE Plasma desktop, it just works. I have a Windows partition still. I still dual boot. But I've booted into it exactly twice since making the switch. Once was because my Loop Deck controller doesn't have Linux support. And once because the Pod XD amp sim software I use for the guitar also no Linux support. That's it. Those are the only two things that sent me back. Everything else, it works on Linux. My Predator, Cups handled it. Web browsing, no problem. Reaper DAW, Audacity, both excellent on Linux. GIMP, I ditched Photoshop years ago, so that's a no-brainer. LibreOffice, OBS, all of it. For video, I use Kdenlive most primarily, although I did manage to get DaVinci Resolve to work on there too, even though I found that that's a little bit overkill for my workflow at this time. I do want to be straight with you though. Linux is not Windows. There's a learning curve. Some hardware will work perfectly out of the box. Some software you rely on might not have a Linux version. And I'm not here to lie to you about that. But the trade-off, the control, the performance, the privacy, the community, the philosophy, for me, it's not even close. Windows felt like a cage I didn't even know I was in until I left. So you want to try Linux? Here's what I actually recommend. Step 1, grab Ventoy. Put it on a USB drive. Then download a handful of ISOs and load them up. Now you have a Linux testing toolkit that costs you nothing but an afternoon. Step 2, distro hop. Don't let anyone tell you there's one right answer. Try Ubuntu, try Fedora, try Pop! OS, try Mint if you want something that feels familiar. Try Garuda if you want something that looks like it was built inside of a cyberpunk video game. Try things, break things. That's how you learn. And step 3, keep the dual boot. Keep Windows around as a safety net. You don't have to use it. I barely do. But knowing it's there takes some pressure off. But remember, Windows is a subscription to someone else's computer. They decide what runs on it, what gets collected from it, and what the interface looks like. Also, what features disappear in the next update. Linux is yours. You built it. You broke it. You fixed it. You made it look exactly the way you wanted. Nobody can take that away from you. That's the punk rock ethos right there. That's why I stayed. 11 years between my first boot and my second. Don't wait that long.